What if mammoths never went extinct? Imagine walking outside on a cold morning and seeing something move across the horizon. Not a truck, not a herd of cattle, a 12-foot giant with curved tusks that can lift a small car. The most powerful Ice Age survivors still alive today. If mammoths never went extinct, the world would not look familiar. It would look like a planet that grew up with giants, and almost everything about human history, climate, cities, and wildlife would be different. Today we are stepping into that alternate world, a world that feels unbelievable, but one that could have happened if just a few things in history changed. For this scenario, assume two things. One, the last pockets of woolly mammoths in Siberia and Wrangel Island never collapsed. Two, the warming phase after the Ice Age slowed down just enough for them to adapt. That survival alone creates the first major change. Mammoths would not be rare. They would be widespread across the north, moving through Russia, Canada, Alaska, and even parts of northern Europe. Their numbers would not be massive, but they would be stable, similar to how bison live in North America today. If mammoths survived, humans would have grown up beside the largest land animals on the planet. That alters thousands of years of development. Mammoths would have remained a primary resource for ancient societies. Their meat, fat, hides, bones, and tusks would be part of many cultures. Entire winter settlements might be built around following herds. This changes population spread, migration patterns, and even languages. Ancient art, symbols, and religion would feature mammoths the same way some cultures treat sacred cattle or elephants. By the time empires formed, mammoths would be protected, traded, or even controlled. Some civilizations might make them symbols of royalty. Others might attempt to domesticate them for hauling heavy loads in frozen regions. If that succeeded, northern nations would have a huge advantage in transport. A single mammoth could pull weights that would break wooden carts pulled by oxen. By today, we would have entire sections of wildlife management dedicated to mammoths, the same way we regulate tigers, bears, and elephants. They would live in protected parks across Siberia and Canada. Settlements in those regions would be built with reinforced barriers and warning systems, since mammoths could walk into farmland and destroy crops in minutes. Tourism would explode. Countries would protect mammoth reserves the same way African countries protect their elephants and gorillas. There would be international fights over tusk trading, genetic protection, and global conservation laws. The climate would not be the same. This is not speculation. Mammoths shaped the land they lived on. They knocked down trees, stomped grasslands flat, and created open plains. If they survived, the Siberian and Alaskan tundra would not be thick forests today. It would be patchy, cold grassland created by herds moving across it. That creates two major consequences. Open grassland reflects more sunlight than dark forests. With mammoths keeping forests from spreading, the northern hemisphere would stay slightly cooler. This slows the melting of permafrost and reduces CO2 release. Climate researchers believe that if Ice Age megafauna survived, Earth might be half a degree cooler today. That is a huge difference. With mammoths maintaining the ecosystem, species like woolly rhinoceroses, giant elk, and steppe bison might survive longer. Some might survive to the present. The North would become a living museum of megafauna, not a frozen wasteland, but a cold grassland full of giant animals. If mammoths survived, their predators would survive longer as well. Wolves would be larger in northern regions because they would hunt calves. Saber-toothed cats might hang on in small pockets if prey remained available. Cave lions could survive in colder pockets of Eurasia. Even if not all of them make it to the modern day, many would last thousands of years longer. The Ice Age would not feel like ancient history, it would feel recent. Here is where the story gets intense. Humans and mammoths would clash all the time. They are not predators, but they are dangerous. In Alaska or Siberia, highways would need fencing strong enough to stop a 10-ton animal. Collisions would be rare but catastrophic. Farmers in northern regions would spend millions each year protecting fields from mammoth raids. A single mammoth can ruin an entire season of crops in one night. Cities built near migration routes would install sound fences, ground vibrations, or artificial scents to redirect herds. Occasionally, a young bull might wander into a small town, forcing evacuations. Countries would argue over who gets to control the genetics of mammoths. Tusks would be heavily regulated. Poaching would become a major crime, similar to killing endangered elephants. Documentaries would show live migrations of mammoths walking across frozen rivers. Drone footage would show herds fighting off wolves. Scientists would track the oldest matriarchs across the Arctic. This would be the northern version of the African savanna. Millions of people would dream of seeing mammoths in the wild. Entire towns would rely on winter tourism. Mammoth photography would be as iconic as great white sharks or mountain gorillas. If mammoths never went extinct, humans would grow up knowing that giants still exist. We would not think of the past as a world full of lost creatures. We would see ourselves living in a world that still carries ancient power. It would shape our imagination, our science, and our place in nature.